Whereas most games start off like this, Hades starts like this. Called a roguelite because of its similarity to Rogue, a 1980s game in which you go through procedurally generated maps and dying means starting over from the beginning. Hades adds a more modern touch to the genre, meaning they made the combat and story actually good, and dying doesn't suck. Like the previous Supergiant games, Hades has its own unique and memorable feature, which is that dying is actually part of the story. Other characters recall your previous escape attempts, and there are opportunities to interact with and learn more about them through conversations, gift giving, and additions to the codex. And with unlockable areas, weapons, and abilities, and options to make renovations to the various parts of the House of Hades, you always feel like you're making progress, even if you make it to a lower chamber in the last escape attempt. In fact, there's so much to do and learn more about that when I first made it to the surface, I got worried that the game would end and wanted to go back. There isn't really a way to lose, and it's sometimes hard to take the character seriously.
And you leave me with little choice but to make you shut up already, and your bull-headed manservant there.
That Minotaur whom you address is my dear friend, you preconceiving stain upon the earth.
Which creates a more casual mood, but that doesn't in the least mean that it's not motivating. There's a fairly simple but interesting mystery surrounding Zagreus and his family that needs to be solved, and the other characters are cheering you on. And even though his spiky hair and bare chest make him seem like some sassy tough jerk, Zagreus is actually a funny, kind, and respectful character that you want to root for. And because there are almost as many punks as there are nice characters, being sent back to the House of Hades means trash from this guy, bosses, daddy, and even the narrator.
The bedchambers of Prince Zagreus lie in a perpetual state of utter disarray, despite his lord and master of the house repeatedly insisting that he pick everything up.
Oh, come on, it's not that bad, is it?
A lot of games are huge open worlds nowadays, with many side quests and characters, but a lot of those games feel like huge glasses only filled partially. On the other hand, Hades is a small game on the surface. There are only 3 main areas and 4 boss fights, but it's overflowing with content, is polished, and always feels fresh. There's never a repeated piece of dialogue from any character, and every run, a whole unique dialogue tree branches out. One god can comment on another from whom you received help, and choosing the help of one god over the other can offend them, and the weapon you have can be recognized by others and commented upon, and boss fights might recognize if you upgrade your weapon with the hammer. The number of combinations of dialogue are ridiculous and make the game feel really natural. And that's only talking about the dialogue. There are plenty of twists in the story, and some escape attempts can have you fighting an entirely different boss to change up the rhythm. And remember how you complained so much about that 1v2 boss fight in Elysium? Well, there's a chance that in one of the runs, the Minotaur shows up in an earlier chamber just to give a fair one-on-one fight. And sometimes this guy shows up to compete with you in who can kill the most monsters. And you can unlock fishing. Nice. Also, if you're extra nice to Charon, there's a chance he'll let you borrow some gold. Oh,
Wow.
I guess I wasn't supposed to. Consistent with previous Supergiant games, the music is slappin'. There are so many tracks and they always fit the intensity of the fight. A single boss fight's music can start off like this, and soon develop into this. And the more somber pieces, sung by Eurydice, voiced by Ashley Barrett, who also sang the hits from the other games, let you take a relieving breather. And the art, my goodness. Each room has so much detail, and lighting effects make it one of the best looking 2D games I've played. It looks so good that the fans on my Switch sometimes blow like the turbine of an airplane as I'm playing. Now the combat. The combat feels so good. The movement doesn't hold you back while you're slaying hundreds of enemies, and the adrenaline rush when you enter a chamber and the rock music kicking in makes you ready to send your Joy-Cons back to Nintendo for both drift and broken buttons. There are parts where you go absolutely berserk, and other parts where you have to slow down, watch your step, and use your brain. You're always getting stronger in both skill and upgrades to yourself. And the game does a cool thing where it leaves it to you to figure out what different awards and chambers actually do. Figuring that all out lets you choose your chambers and awards much more wisely. All the weapons are unique and have pros and cons in using them. Finding a weapon and upgrade combination that fits you is really fun. And the hammer is great because the upgrades it provides are unique to each weapon. There are so many combinations that one of your escape attempts could look like this, while another could look like this, or this, or this. And it's not just about the weapons. Using the environment and technique is important too. Hitting enemies into traps and lava and having pillars crumble on top of enemies are really satisfying to do. The game is always trying to get you to challenge yourself and to take risks. Chambers with the skull icon usually have a mini-boss but with greater reward. Chaos Spoons handicap you for a few chambers in exchange for increased abilities afterwards. And the Pact of Punishment lets you design different aspects of the escape attempt to make it more difficult and in order to gain bounties that can unlock more abilities for your weapon. The casual and non-rushed mood of the game makes taking these challenges feel more welcoming. Similar to Naughty Dog, my favorite part about Supergiant games is how their projects keep evolving. From Bastion to Transistor to Pyre and now to Hades, each game is longer, more polished, and has new interesting mechanics, while still holding the elements such as the music and art style that make their games recognizable. And with their Metascore reaching the 90s now, it makes me really excited to see what kind of fresh, new experience they create next.